in addition to that, it gives you a reason to contact them.
Exactly.
There's
Another touch
sometimes
point.
I even know something, and I'll be like,
In this video, we're going to hear from Corey, one of the growth partners over at SGP, and you're going to hear what he has to say about working with us so far. It's only been a couple of months, but there are some really good takeaways here, and it was a casual conversation sitting in a cafe after we went to an event in Vegas and got to shake hands and have dinner with some of these medium-sized businesses that we're bringing on board. Now, I will say that there are some sensitive details that we couldn't touch on, which is why you kind of see us dance around the conversation a little bit, because at the end of the day, these are $100 to $200 million companies that we're talking about. And some of these partnerships are still in key development. And so there's a lot of things that can't be disclosed yet, and we're not really talking about what the project is. Small businesses, for example, are $40 million and under, according to the government of the US. So even landing meetings with these organizations has been very interesting and part of the growth partnership process. So the core things that we cover in this conversation are where things started, the main challenges from keeping this platform from moving forward, and what's already changed in the short time working together. I hope you enjoy, and I would love to hear your feedback and questions in the comments below. Follow along for more high-level conversations and to see where this thing goes.
So I'm here with Corey, and we've been working together for a few months now. It's been awesome, and it just feels like we're just getting started. Already so much has happened, so much has occurred, but it's been super cool, man. And I don't see anything in the future other than like ridiculous amounts of growth beyond what's already occurred. And we just got done with an event in Vegas, which is pretty exciting. So I want to ask you a couple questions. Yes, right here. Thank you. Oh, the Diablo Panini. Thank you. I think we're done with this too, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, okay, just really quick, again, without going in too much into the details, just a super high level view, very concise. Tell us just a little bit, dance around like what it is that we're working on.
ultimately we are trying to launch a program, deliver that to market, and really kind of just get feedback. You know, is this going to support real problems? And really just kind of get insight, like, is it realistic? Is it worth taking that next step?
Yeah, 100% agreed. And so you had another business before this?
Still do, but yes.
Yeah, yeah. This is your second pretty cool big venture, and
Not big.
yeah. I mean, small business because you're looking at massive corporations.
Oh, yeah.
But in general, like what you're working on is kind of a cool thing. So in my terminology, I just say big, but
Okay.
yeah, small business, great concepts. So outside of that, what I kind of want to understand and like capture here, of course, is like the top 3 problems. If you had to think about it for a second and nail it down to like 3 core issues in getting this thing to work or getting this thing to market in the way that you wanted to, what do you think those would be?
Getting the conversation with the right person that's going to make the decision on the software. Ensuring there isn't any confusion on what it is and what it does, and also a big thing of what it doesn't do. And I think that's also an important element there. And I think the third thing that, you know, we're going to have to be factoring in is ultimately the intricacies of some businesses and ensuring that we pat this thing in a way that is still in alignment with the original intention.
So keeping it simple but making it work for the brands.
Making it solve those mission critical, non-negotiable problems. And while still giving the flexibility without going off the rails and too far, too wide.
Yeah, that makes sense. So from the perspective of impact, let's talk about like how are those problems stalling you out before? For example, like if nothing changed and everything stayed exactly the same, what impact would that have overall on the success of this entire venture?
When you say like if things had stayed the same,
Yeah. So not sure, because you're talking to people before, but not sure if you're talking to the right people. Not sure if it's really solving what you think it's solving.
oh yeah, not having the direct feedback from the market.
Yeah. Like, what do you, just in general, if these problems stayed there,
Oh,
what
right.
what do you think would happen? Like, if nothing changed, like, where would you end up? How would it work?
Okay, I'm understanding this two ways because if nothing changed in terms of the direction I want to take the software, that's an answer to that question. But if nothing changed in terms of like if I did not have this experience, where would the path of the software go?
Not the experience, just the standpoint of like, if you couldn't get rid of these problems, let's say they remain current and ongoing.
In the market?
Yeah, in the market
Okay.
of trying to make this thing fit, but not having the right people to talk to. Not sure if you're even talking to the right people, right? Not sure if it's really integrating with their businesses properly.
Right.
How do you think that would manifest? Like, what would happen?
Oh, I mean, it just wouldn't find footing. Like you would not be able to find people to use it. Adoption. There you go. It wouldn't
Adoption.
happen. You'd be stuck in foster care.
That's the that's the word. Yeah. I love that.
So making sure that people understand it simply and in a concise way is really important. But again, really making sure that we are not being confused with other systems that have a lot more intricacies, a lot more nuance, a lot more things that can be daunting to people. So really kind of anchoring in, okay, the simplification and, just like, look, this is the core. This is the meat and potatoes, what makes sense and not what doesn't. It's giving you what you need and not giving you more than that.
Huge.
So
I love that because we talk a lot about like messaging. Like I have other content and frameworks and stuff for people to like try to niche in on their messaging. So this is great because it kind of ties in with that message, which is like, if you can't speak, if you don't know you're talking to the right person and you can't speak their language, like the chances that you're actually solving their problem are pretty much near zero.
Oh yeah.
Right? So I like that.
Being able to talk shop with the right person, I could be saying, and I've used this example so many times, but I could be saying blue and you could be saying blue, but I mean light blue and you mean navy blue. We're saying the same word, but it means two different things to us. And that's exactly what it can mean if I'm talking to a person in sales or I'm talking to somebody in customer support. If I'm talking to somebody in operations or if I'm talking to somebody in product development, right? Same word, different meanings for said person.
Yeah, dude, so true. Yeah, it's like speaking a different language.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, dude, I love that. So in terms of like what has fixed this so far, so for example, like we've deployed multiple things together. A lot of it has been conversation, really concepts and taking a look at things, but we've run through some visual frameworks in the past. I've drawn things on screens and whatever. In terms of like your biggest takeaways for getting rid of those problems, what do you feel like has been the biggest contributor besides this live event that we went to, hit boots on the ground? Before this, how do you feel like you were able to kind of start to overcome some of those problems?
Conversations. Yeah.
Oof.
Talking to people,
Oof.
right? It's actually getting outside of Google and, because for me, I started this because, I'm in this industry. I experience these problems. I created this for myself. I didn't create it for somebody else, and I knew it was a industry thing because it was a shared experience across multiple manufacturers and multiple countries. And okay, I'm kind of connecting the dots here. Now, again, it's my experience. I have some relevance, but when then you're talking to people, you kind of just feel and get a gist for what the baseline is amongst people, because we all kind of have our own spin on different things. And sometimes I'm a little too detailed. I'm a little too this, too that, right? So when I have these conversations with people, I'm like, well, well, yeah, I said that or I did this, but I'm not communicating in a way that's being received by them. And when I ask those questions, well, how would you describe this? If you were to say this and this is the word that was said, right? Those are the answers that are being received that really kind of have, oh, aha. Well, look, my definition, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what the collective definition is. And unless I have those conversations, I wouldn't have that.
Oof, that's huge. And that's one of the early things we worked on together, right? It was like, okay, how many conversations do we have on the calendar ahead of us with these certain types of people?
Right.
And initially it was like, well, not too many. Like you were having conversations with other people, which was amazing, but there wasn't too many in the direction and field that we really felt like we needed, right? In order to start to hone in the messaging, so we're making sure we're connecting with more of the right people.
Yep.
So that seemed to be effective almost right away. Like the first couple conversations we had, diving in with people,
Yeah.
and asking questions. And early on it was who was the gentleman? Not that. I know it wasn't. I won't include all these names. I know. Adam Levine. This is Adam Levine, everybody.
Denzel Washington.
Yeah, autographs later. Yeah, I forget his name. His name's not important, but I'm actually trying to genuinely remember for myself. Jason. Thank you. So, like early on with Jason, even like for me and like our side on the SGP side, that was really eye-opening even to talk to Jesse.
Yeah.
And then kind of hear how he was thinking. We had that other conversation with Daryl, right? And it was interesting to hear. That wasn't as helpful, probably because it was slightly out of category, but it was still related because he knows the supply chain.
There's pockets, right?
Yeah.
And I think you can find nuggets in anything, right? So it's kind of like being able to dissect that information. The more conversations you have, the more commonalities you're going to find. I'm like, oh wait, so this person here said X, and so did this person and that person and that person, and these are all people that are independent of each other. They have no wherewithal of who that is, or so, and then that's what kind of establishes like, oh, all right, so that's 100% a thing. Right? And so now we can be like, well, I thought this was, but collectively, 8 out of 10 people said that was not a thing.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, we're trying to speak to the majority.
I love that. We have an exercise that we run like every partner through. It's called the Avatar Leaderboard. And you actually did this one too, right? Yeah. So that's a separate conversation, but it kind of speaks to that, which is like, what are the current customers saying? And how do they articulate it in their language, and then how can we take that, turn to content, ads, pain points, etc., and kind of mine some information from existing what we have going on. It's harder with newer brands because they don't have that track record of working with people typically. Right. So that's why we work with experienced brands. But I like what you said there. Like overall, if we had to categorize that, conversations.
Yeah.
Conversations with more and more of the right people. Like, how has this affected you on a personal level, outside of the business, just all of this coming together, right, of more niched messaging, really almost like getting inside the head now of these people and seeing it from a whole different view, just a little sidestep to what you had before.
Right.
Because you had a great perspective before, now it's just greater perspective.
Yeah.
What has it done for you on a personal level outside of the business world?
Assurance, right? It's provided that assurance on, okay, hey, these are the things that actually matter. These are the real things. This is 1, 2, and 3, right? So it's just kind of drawn a hard line in the sand. And, there's other things, and it's kind of created interest and seeking to understand in other arenas, but it has cemented the primary facets of what we're trying to address. So
That's huge. So you probably feel a little bit more
confident.
confident,
Yeah, assured.
excited, relaxed
Yeah, I
in
mean,
different ways. Yeah, you have a lot going on, so.
there's a lot of specifically speaking of this, it just draws that stability in a sense, that knowing and not guessing, right? It's taking the guesswork out of stuff.
I like that. Almost done here. So, if you were going to give someone else's advice, like almost directly to the camera, right? To get started on a process like this, like what you had to go about, for example, conversations, right?
Okay.
That's not easy for everybody to start lining those things up.
Oh no.
So if you had to give some direct advice about the easy and the hard stuff, what would you say? If they needed to book in more conversations, and part of your advice is have more conversations,
Okay.
what else would you have to say about that?
So specifically about conversations only.
Or in general, just in terms of what we talked about here, from problems to kind of like the fix of those problems, which for you was like a big one was conversations.
Yeah, I would say, A, don't be afraid to go out and ask questions, to admit that you don't know when you don't know. Be authentic, be genuine. Don't try to BS people. I think a lot more people are willing to kind of come alongside of you when you can tell them your intention, what you aspire to, but also just have that transparency and say, look, I'm trying to figure this out. I don't know what I don't know, but what I do know is there's a bucket of it. So I think it's that, and then also just being bold, just taking that step and taking action, because no matter what, the time is going to pass, and you either take the action or you don't.
Boom. Dude, well, one thing I noticed about you the last 2 days at this live event that we were attending together here in Vegas is when you didn't know something, you would literally just say that. And to me, that's so refreshing. So when you were talking to someone and I was standing there witnessing, right, about this whole topic, you would literally be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then if it was important, you'd be like, but I'll find out.
Well, I think that's what too many people today, is they're trying to act like you have it all together. And, I have this, that, and the other, and we kind of live in a time where people want to promote a certain lifestyle that they quote unquote have when it's not genuine. And I think people kind of gravitate to when you are open or not, because it's not the answer that they expect. They're so used to people being like, oh yeah, this, that, and the other, and just having this assurance and just kind of holding steadfast in their bullshit, right? And when you can just be, you know what, I don't know, but I'm just seeking to understand. I'm curious. I want to learn more. And people want to help those that are seeking to do that. And they're gonna give you way more leeway. It gives you an out in the conversation in a sense, right? Because then you're open to make all the mistakes you want, and it's okay, because they're not gonna be like, oh, this asshole came in and knows it all, where it's like they're gonna stick it to you. They'll put you in a corner, especially if this person knows said thing that you claim to know about.
Oh yeah.
And you try to talk shop with that person, and then they catch you in that, then you just lost all credibility, all rapport, all trust. Now, pivot that approach and open. Oh, I'm trying to figure this out. Now they want to come alongside you. Now they want to introduce you. Hey, you know what? Not only do I know this, but I also know this other guy that knows these other things that you're going to want to know, right? And it's, okay. I didn't know to turn those stones. This guy does. And he did that because of the fact that I just told him straight up, this is where I'm at and this is where I want to be. Great, come here.
Dude, huge. Yeah, I love that. We see that constantly. I think it's a genuine problem these days, which is, I was just having a conversation last week with somebody about that. Who the person is not important, but I was just telling this person, just say I don't know, but I will find out.
Yeah.
And and then actually go find out. If it's
Follow
important
the
to the
action.
conversation, say I don't know, go find out, contact the person back and say I found out. That person just increase the respect for that person, and your reputation with them increased so much, because number one, you said you were going to do something and you did it. You contacted them back, and then you actually know the thing that they probably wanted to know too. That's why it came up in the conversation. And otherwise, if they knew, then you wouldn't have had to go look it up. So,
in addition to that, it gives you a reason to contact them.
Exactly.
There's
Another touch
sometimes
point.
I even know something, and I'll be like, I'm not sure. You know what? I'm gonna get back to you, because guess what? That's a reason for me to revisit, and I want to revisit. I'm looking for that, And you know, I'm not saying with things that are big things. I'm just saying, look, if this is something that I know that I can have a future conversation about, then great, you know. And
Yeah.
that's what it's really about. And just
Now you're dropping some sauce. Now you're dropping some strategy on them.
This is, you know, kiwasabi. No,
Well, sweet dude. I appreciate you.
absolutely,
Fantastic conversation. Thanks for sharing these guys.
absolutely.
And yeah, dude, I'm excited.
Likewise.
Cheers.
Let's go.
So now that that's over, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Would love to hear them in the comments below. Do you have any questions about this? Or is there any specific thing that you would love to hear? Again, this is typically larger than most businesses, so results are not going to be typical in terms of dealing with businesses like this. The probability is that you're a smaller company looking for things that'll work directly for you. And we do have a lot of frameworks and strategies that can work for almost any size business, and you'll find more of those on this channel or joining me on my Instagram at Spencer White, WIGHT. I'm excited to begin this content journey with you and to hold your hand through some growth by sharing amazing tools that have helped our clients. Without further ado, go check out some of the other videos on the channel, and I'll see you over there.